guys, it's Haley. Welcome back to my channel. We're exciting. We're going to be doing my first ever book talk for Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. This is the final book in the Dark Artifices series, and I just finished it last night, and let me tell you guys, I really enjoyed this book. So we're going to have a non-spoilery section first and then go into the spoilery section. So if you haven't read the book, you're totally fine to keep watching for now, and I'll let you know when spoilers are coming so you won't get spoiled. So as conclusions go, this one didn't feel very conclusion-y. There were a lot of things that were not answered that are being set up for the next book series, The Wicked Powers. I didn't mind that so much because it left a lot of things open that I'm excited to read more about. It definitely was less of a finale than like City of Glass, Clockwork Princess, and City of Heavenly Fire were. Those felt like they wrapped everything up in like a neat little bow. This felt like, oh my god, there's still a lot of questions we need answered. But yeah, I loved all of the relationships in this book. I thought they were so well developed. They were so interesting. The characters are all so fantastic, and we got to see some Mortal Instruments characters for a while, which was really great. Slight spoiler if you didn't know that. You get to see some TMI characters, some TID characters. So character heavy, this book, and I loved all of them. I got to learn so much about all of them. I felt like they were all really fleshed out. The story arcs that were being developed through the past books in the series were sort of wrapped up, especially for like Emma and Julian and Christina and Mark, Kieran, Diego, Jaime, you know, those characters all sort of had a resolution to their story, which is really cool. And then they're setting up things for the Wicked Powers with other characters that are super exciting, and I'm really looking forward to the Wicked Powers. I know it's going to be like years before it comes out because we still got the Last Hours series to finish to wrap up, but book 2 of the Last Hours comes out in March of next year, which isn't that far away, and then after that there's only one more book, and then the Wicked Powers is coming, so I'm super excited. I'm so glad I finally read this book. I know I'm super late to the party on this one, but I had a ton of fun reading it. It took me a little while to get through because it is so long. It's like 900 pages, but it was so good. It was so worth it. It was definitely one of my favorite reads of the year. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to talk about it with you. So without further ado, we're going to get into the spoilery section. So if you have not read Queen of Air and Darkness, please leave now so that you don't get spoiled. I really don't want to ruin this book for everyone. It is fantastic. Alright, so bye non-spoilery people. Bye! Okay, let's get started. So the first 100 pages of this were really hard for me to get through, mostly because of just how sad it was with losing Livy, and like I had a long time to prepare for how sad it was going to be because I waited a long time to read this book, and I still wasn't really prepared for how heartbreaking it was. Everyone was in mourning, and Cassandra Clare writes grief so well. Like, you feel it with the characters when they're sad and when they're grieving. You can feel it like in your chest, like the pain of the pain of it all. Yeah, I just had a really hard time getting through it because I was so sad and I was so heartbroken over Livy because I loved Livy, and just having the Blackthorn family be missing a member just was felt so wrong to me, you know what I mean? That very first scene with when they're still in the council hall and they're still on the dais and Julian is holding Livy and Emma's trying to get to them, and Gia comes and says Emma has to give her Cortana before she can do it because Cortana broke the mortal sword. I was so suspicious of Gia in that moment because we didn't know why Cortana broke the mortal sword, and I was so nervous that it was something suspicious with Gia wanting to use it for her own personal reasons or something, and I was very suspicious because I do not like Emma without Cortana. I'm not a fan. Emma and Cortana belong together. That's my #1 ship, is Emma and Cortana. So that just gave me anxiety. But after that scene, we have the scene with Emma and Julian where Emma sort of helps Julian out of his bloody clothes, and they shower together, and then they get to the sort of hot, steamy times, and then they stop because Julian feels his runes start to burn, but doesn't tell Emma this, and the curse is sort of encroaching upon them pretty quickly. Julian sort of flees to Magnus and asks Magnus to take his emotions away. And when Magnus agreed to this, I remember thinking, like, why are you doing this? What are you thinking, Like, I guess in the end it was a good thing, because if he hadn't done it, the curse would have happened quicker, and they wouldn't have been able to come back from it, probably. But it's like, Magnus, what are you doing? You have to know that this is not going to end well. Magnus knows how important emotions are, how important love is. Magnus has talked about this in the past, about how feeling things is better than feeling nothing, and even if you have to deal with pain for a time, it's still worth it for the joy, because, you know, Magnus has to deal with the whole immortality thing. Seems like when Shadowhunters are in distress and come to Magnus's door, like, help me, like, he just can't resist helping them, like, with Will and Julian. But see, I was like, This is like the opposite of Will's problem. Like, Will was like trying to find a solution so he could feel and be allowed to love and do all these things, and Julian like wanted to stop. And I was like, it just seems so out of character for Magnus to agree to that, but I guess I understand now why he did it, especially after the curse came to fruition, because I was like, holy crap, that was bad. I hate the cohort, by the way. They're all bigots, and they suck, and I hate them. And it sort of was weird to me how, like, they were able to gain so much power. Their ideology seemed very similar to the Circle when you think about it, like the hating of downworlders, the, like, Shadowhunter superiority, and the Circle members were sort of reviled as, like, this shameful thing. I remember in City of Bones, they were, like Alec's parents were exiled because they were members of the Circle, and Jocelyn fled. Well, it was to escape Valentine, but also to escape, like, the Circle. They seem very similar, the cohort and the Circle, and yet somehow the cohort was seen as this, like, popular group. I guess that just shows how we're sort of doomed to repeat the past sometimes. It definitely seems like an allegory to the political situation we have going on now, where the sort of hateful minority can be very loud and oppress the rest of the majority, and it definitely felt like sort of a commentary on America's political situation, which I appreciated, but definitely hateful and hard to read about. I hated every member of the cohort so much. The funeral scene broke my heart into a million pieces. Ty climbing the pyre and Julian climbing up after him, and everyone sort of shouting, because this isn't how Shadowhunters do grief, but it is how the Blackthorns do grief, because they've lost so much, and now they just lost Livy, and it's just so sad and heartbreaking, and I absolutely was devastated at the entire thing. Ty's plan to bring Livy back, I knew it was going to go wrong, and I knew it was going to be bad, and necromancy is a bad thing, and we shouldn't touch it, but I wanted Livy back so badly that I was, like, hoping against hope that it would work. Just, like, somehow it would, like, all go right and Livy would come back, because I was like, the Blackthorns need to be complete. It's not fair. They've never gotten to be a complete family, and, so I was like, half hoping that Ty failed and half rooting for him the entire time, and that was a difficult position to be in. When Jason Clary didn't come back for the funeral, I was so scared for them, and I'm still scared for them, even though we know that Clary's dream was not actually about her own death. It was about her death in another world. I'm still scared. There was a line at one point about when Magnus was sick about what Jace would do if Clary died, and I was like, that better not be foreshadowing. I want everyone to make it through the Wicked Powers okay. They better, all the main couples, all the beloved characters better make it through okay, or I will riot. Right? After the funeral, Jem comes to Emma to talk about Kit and the mystery of Kit and how his mother's family was hunted down by fairies through the generations. And I sort of, as we learned about the first heir and stuff, I sort of started to think that maybe Kit was descended from the first heir, but then I thought, no, because why would the Unseelie King be trying to kill them if they could be used as a weapon against Shadowhunters? But then it was revealed that the king was the original one who tried to have the first heir killed, so that sort of makes sense, and I think it's expanded more on Ghosts of the Shadow Market, so when I read that, I think hopefully it'll become a little more clear, but I was a little confused. I was like, if he can be used as a weapon against Shadowhunters, like his mother was supposed to be, why did they want to kill them? Why wouldn't they want to take them back? I just thought it was interesting. Tess is pregnant. So that's amazing. I'm so happy for her and Jem. Oh, I'm so excited for that little baby to come. And it's weird because James and Lucy Herondale are now going to have a sibling that is born long after they died, which is sort of interesting and weird, but okay, I love it. I forgot that Diego was harboring Kieran. That was something that I totally forgot about and then was reminded of as we got into the book. I love Emma so much. I love her sense of humor. I love the way her and Christina are talking about the note Kieran sent her, and she's like, why did he send this to you? He's so weird. This is so weird. And she's just like, she's so me, and I love that about her. I felt so bad for her when Jules revealed what he did to Magnus, and she's like, you've left me, and he said, I know that I loved you, and he said it in the past tense, and she's like devastated, even though she knows that it's like protecting them from the curse. She's still like heartbroken, and I was like, oh, Julian, I was so mad at Julian for doing it. I understand why he did it, but for hurting Emma, I was like, damn it, Julian. Diana and Gwen throughout this whole book were the most precious part of the entire thing. They were so wholesome. I love their relationship. I love how Gwen is so supportive of her and tells her, she doesn't owe anybody anything. And he says, tell Emma and Julian if you want to, but if you don't, that's fine. He loves her. He just thinks that she is that the sun rises and sets on her, and he just thinks the world of her, and I love that. I love how supportive he is and how at peace they are with each other. It's just so sweet and gratifying, and I absolutely love it about them. It's so good that Diana has that, because she deserves it so much after everything she's been through, after all, with her sister and not being accepted by the Clave and everything. Zara is the worst and also an absolute moron. She's talking to Diego and the Skullman. She's talking about it. She's like, Drew is fat and stupid, which is not true. It's such a bitchy thing to say. And then she's like, and Julian's like Sebastian Morgenstern, and Diego's like, what? And she's like, he raised the dead, and he's like, no, he didn't actually. That was Malcolm, but whatever. And then at the end, towards the end, she's like, when she finds out about Emma and Julian loving each other, she's like, you want to be like Jason Clary, don't you? Wanting what's nasty. And Emma's like, Jason Clary weren't actually related, Zara. And she's like, yeah, well, they thought they were, so that's the same thing. And that just made me wonder about something, because I did wonder, when Jason Clary were revealed to not be siblings and got together immediately after, were people how long has that been going on? Did people blink an eye at that? Because I felt like that just sort of got skated over in City of Glass, the fact that they could be together now, and no one was like, but you thought you were siblings. Isn't that weird? But I guess some people thought it was weird, and I guess I can understand where they're coming from, but I still ship it, so whatever. Poor Helen, she's trying so hard with the kids, and they want Julian, and I understand why Tabby and Drew are resentful, because they've just lost their sister and they miss, their brother who's taking care of them. But I felt so sorry for Helen, because she was trying so hard and she's been separated them for so long, when she didn't want to be, and it broke my heart for her that she was trying so hard and they weren't letting her in. And it really made me happy when her and Drew had that moment of understanding, and they really sort of talked it out and became sisters. And then at the end, when Helen listens to Drew at the battlefield about how they all have to go help Emma and Julian, that really made my heart happy. I was so happy that Helen was sort of a part of the family again. Horace calls Emma and Julian into the Inquisitor's office because he's elected the new Inquisitor, which I was so upset about. And then he drops the F-bomb, which is, I think, the first time I've ever heard that in a Cassie Clare book. And I was listening to the audiobook, and I had to rewind just to make sure that I had heard that correctly, because I was like, did he just say what I think he just said? And it turns out he did, and I had to check in my Kindle book too. I was like, he just said the F word. That was surprising to me. Oh my god, and then he calls and then he calls Zara a modern-day Boadicea, and he's like, in case you don't know who she was, I know, and Julian and I at the exact same time are like, I know who Boadicea was, and I got so pissed off, because I was like, Boadicea is what Will calls Tessa in the Infernal Devices. That's who he says she's like, and that is their thing. You do not touch it. Do not touch Boadicea. That is Will and Tessa's thing. That's a Wessa thing. Don't touch it. It's like A Tale of Two Cities. It's holy to that ship. You do not speak of it if you are not part of it. So he sends them on this mission to Fairy to get the Black Book from Annabelle Blackthorne. And right away, I just can tell that this is going to be a big chunk of the book and that it's not going to go super well for everyone. And turns out it doesn't. Bad things happen, but good things happen also. So Ty and Kate go to talk to Shade about the necromancy thing, and Shade is Ragnar Fell. We don't realize this at first, but it's later revealed to be Ragnar Fell, who we thought was dead and is actually alive, was pretending to be dead for reasons unknown. If this was explained before and I just am forgetting, please let me know, but I do not remember it being revealed that Ragnar is alive. Also, it was in Tales from Shadowhunter Academy, and I'm just forgetting, but I don't remember. The line that he says about Livy, where he says some lights were never meant to burn for long, it made me tear up, because I understood, it's so true, and I understood it, but it also just sort of broke my heart, because Like, he was just so great as a character, and I'm gonna miss her so much. The hollow place thing was very creepy, but very interesting. Like Kieran being forced to reconcile like all the pain he'd ever caused. I thought was super interesting, and of course Samantha Larkspur falls in, and she of course has just caused a ton of pain, so she's just like completely loses her mind. And I thought that I felt bad for Kieran because I know that he's been trying to be a good person, and he actually has like made attempts to change. But Samantha, I didn't really feel that sorry for. I was like, well, you're an awful person and you kind of deserve it. So we're back in Fairy, and Julian straight up murders Dane Larkspur, and I thought there were going to be more consequences for that when it was finally revealed, because he confesses to it at the end, and everyone's like, well, he was there to kill them, so I guess he had no choice. But Emma at the time is like horrified. She's like, you can't just kill another Shadowhunter. He had totally like been subdued by them, so he just killed him in cold blood, and there were like sort of no consequences for it. And I thought that was really intense. Julian can be scary sometimes, although they definitely deserved it for the way he talked about Drew. That was disgusting, and I hated him so much. And speaking of Drew, Kit and Drew have a sweet little friendship where he teaches her how to pick locks, and then she helps them out with getting Hypatia Vex to be head of the Shadow Market. She poses as another Shadow Hunter for them, and I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed their dynamic. I thought that it was really sweet that someone was giving Drew attention and was letting her be a part of something, because she feels so left out sometimes. I was proud of Diego and Divya and Rayanne for the way that they stood up against the rest of the cohort, even though they got arrested and they let Kieran get away. I was really proud of them in that moment. I was like, perfect, Diego has come a long way from the beginning of last book, and he's done a lot of good, and I'm really proud of him. So Julian comes up with this plan that he doesn't tell Emma about, to trade the Black Book, the copy of the Black Book that he made at OfficeMax, to the Unseelie Queen, in exchange for how to break the Parvati rune and to know the location of Annabelle Blackthorn. And I definitely was uneasy about this. I definitely do not trust the Unseelie Queen for obvious reasons, because we've never been able to trust her in the past. And it was just so hard seeing Julian keep these things from Emma. Like, she was saying, you know, he lies and he manipulates, but he doesn't usually do that to me, and he did it to me this time, and that hurt. And I just felt so sorry for her, and I was like, Julian without emotions is a scary, scary person. He really freaks me out. I really appreciate Julian with emotions a lot more now that I have met Julian without emotions, because he is sort of terrifying. I'm so curious about the darkness to the Parvati rune that the Unseelie Queen was talking about. Like, I feel like it wasn't fully explained at the end. We got that it can sort of turn you into the true Nephilim, but I didn't think that was all of it. I'm just curious to know exactly what the darkness behind the Parvati bond is. Like, what is so dangerous about it, other than the falling in love aspect. Like, what is the darkness running through it that the Unseelie Queen was talking about? Because she can't lie. So I'm just curious to what that is, because I feel like it wasn't completely wrapped up in this book. The Kieran, Mark, and Christina relationship was super interesting in this book. Christina kept feeling like so confused about how she felt, because she felt things for Mark and Kieran and at the same time, and then Mark was confused because he saw them kissing, and he was like, I'm not jealous, which is weird. And I was like, guys, obviously the answer is to be all three of you together, and I'm glad that Kieran finally came out and said it, like, I love you both and I want to be with you both. And they finally like got the memo on that, about that was how they felt, and I loved their relationship. I was so happy that in the end when they finally got the cottage and they weren't going to be able to see each other, and it's going to be difficult because they're all in different places, but I hope we get to see some more of them. I really do ship the three of them so hard, and they're so cute, and I really just find their relationship so precious. So hopefully that's not the last we see of Kieran, Mark, and Christina. I don't think it will be. It can't be, especially now that Kieran's the king of the Unseelie. There's definitely going to be more of him cropping up, and definitely Mark and Christina too. So I'm excited. So Julian talks to the Unseelie Queen about the having no emotions thing, and she mentions the old fairy proverb that the story that the book starts with, which is in the land of fairy, as mortals feel no sorrow, neither can they feel joy. And she says that Julian is in the cage, and he later carves that into his arm when he's in Thule to remind himself that he wants to have his emotions back on, which was good. I'm glad they had that conversation, and I'm glad that was able to strike some sense into him later, because if we'd had to deal with no emotion Julian throughout the whole book, I don't think I would have survived that. Then, so we get to the Unseelie court, and there's a captive there, and we find out it's Ash, and he's referenced as Sebastian Morgenstern's brat. So it is revealed the Seelie Queen's son, Ash, is the child of the Seelie Queen, and Sebastian Morgenstern, he is, guys, the theory was right. Oh my god, I got so excited when I saw it. I was like, I knew it the whole time. I totally predicted it, and I was so proud of myself. I mean, I didn't come up with it by myself. Christine from Pulling Bananas Books was sort of the main, like, proponent of that theory, but I totally bought into it, and I was so excited when it was proven true, because I was like, oh my god, this is so exciting. And Ash has this weird thing where he, like, motivates perfect loyalty in people, and that is sort of interesting, I find. He's sort of like, everyone wants to protect him and take care of him, and I think it's really interesting. He has this sort of, like, charm about him that's, like, supernatural, and it makes everyone feel very protective of him, so I'm curious to see where that goes, especially now that he's been in Thule for a while. Does anyone else low-key ship Ash and Drew? Is it just me? It's weird. I feel like it's weird now because now he is older because he's aged a few years in Thule. At first they were the same age, and now it's like there's an age difference and it's weirder now, but I'm hoping that maybe, like, he will stay suspended in time in Fairy or something, and then Drew will get older and he won't, and then they can maybe be love interests. I just kind of ship it. I don't know. I like the way he thinks about her and stuff. I liked their one conversation in Lord of Shadows, and then the way he thought about her in this one. So Emma and Julian get thrown in prison because they try to kidnap Ash and it doesn't go well. And they're in a cell across from Jace and Clary, and I was so excited to see them. Literally every scene that Clay was in, I was so excited because it was like seeing old friends. It was like, oh my god, you're here, and I missed you. I forgot how much I loved them, but I love Jace and Clary as characters so much, and I missed them, and it was so great to see them. And I love how, like, Emma was watching Jace, and she was like, she remembered why she wanted to be like Jace Herondale when she was younger, and it made my heart so full. I was like, it's so cool to have these characters like Emma and Julian look up to characters like Jace and Clary that we saw go through all of their, like, coming of age and trials and tribulations. Like, we know why they look up to them so much because we do too, and it's just, it's so precious. Kieran and Mark get captured by his brother, and then Christina escapes and she goes to Kieran's brother Adayan to help rescue them. And basically it comes around that all of them are reunited in the throne room. And this was a really cool scene. It was very intense. I was so excited that everyone was finally together again, but of course that can't last long. The Unseelie King gets killed by Kieran. Ash and Annabelle go through the portal to Thule, in which the Seelie Queen is not happy about. And then Julian and Emma cannot get back through. The entire throne room's on fire, and Julian and Emma cannot get back through to Christina with the Eternidad to get out of Fairy, so they have to go through the portal to Thule. It's their only way out. And the Thule section was so intense. I was on edge the entire time I was reading it. I just had so much anxiety and so much, like, built up tension in me that it was hard to get through, and I had to put it down a couple times because I was getting, like, so drained from it. Seeing Livy in the alternate dimension broke my heart. It was so good to see her, but she was so different from our Livy. She was so much more hardened, and she'd been through so much, and I wanted to take her back with us so bad, but I know why we couldn't, and it was so good to see her, and I think it really helped Jules heal, and I was glad for that. And she was so fierce and badass and strong, and I was just so proud of her for leading the resistance with her family gone. And when she wrote that letter to Ty, I got really emotional, and when she wrote, I love you, I love you, I love you, and that kept repeating, I was like, tears, just tears. Sebastian, that mother. I know I called Sebastian one of my favorite villains, and he is, because he's such a good villain, but it's because I hate him so much. That was literally all I could think about while I was reading this book, was like, we do not have to deal with this son of a bitch again. We do not. I can't deal with it. I can't go through this again. I went through 3 books of having this guy be the villain, and I thought we were done, and we're not done, and I was so grateful when Emma killed him, and he was gone again. I was like, great, he's out of the picture again. His thing about redheads and preferring redheads and wanting Julian and Emma to bring him a redhead, it made me so uncomfortable and so nauseated. I was like, this is disgusting. I hate it. I'd forgotten about the weird obsession with Clary. I don't know how I forgot, but I did forget about his weird obsession with Clary, and I got reminded of that very quickly. So seeing Jace under his thrall really hurt, and like, we'll talk about the epilogue in a minute, but I'm so excited to see what happens with Dark Chase. I really liked that this was the world that didn't have Clary in it, and like showed how much she was really a hero and how much she changed things, because Emma remembered, you know, the times that people had said, mostly men, were saying that Clary wasn't a hero, that she'd just been in the right place at the right time and didn't really do much, and it's just revealed how much she really did for the world. And I was super proud of Clary in that moment, because I was like, that's my girl. I really love Clary. I know a lot of people don't love her, but I really do. She's one of my favorite characters in the Mortal Instruments, and I adore her. Julian's emotions were back on in full. That was good. That was a relief. I was really excited about that. It made me appreciate emotional Julian so much more. And then, of course, when they get back, they're off again because magic is restored. So they get back and they form their resistance with the other Shadow Hunters who are against the cohort. And then this all leads to the final battle where they confront the cohort at their parley with the Unseelie King, who is now Kieran's brother, Oban. And in the final battle, Oban gets slayed and Kieran becomes king, so I'm excited to see where that goes and what happens with him. And then Emma and Julian, Zara stabs Emma, and Julian comes and heals her, and Emma and Julian become true Nephilim. They become giants, like, made of light and gold and heavenly fire, basically. And that was really intense. That's not where I thought the Parvati curse was going to go, but it did. I know I'm saying Parvati wrong, by the way, but I just can't help it. I've said it that way for so long that I can't change it, and when I do, it's inconsistent, so I'm sorry that I'm saying it different ways each time. But it's Drew's idea to use the power of their family to bring them back, and they do end up being saved, and their Parvati rune is now burned away, and so they can be together without the fear of becoming true Nephilim again, which I really want to know more about the origins of that. I hope maybe we get into it in Ghost of the Shadow Market, or maybe in Wicked Powers, but I want to know more about the curse, because I feel like we learned a lot about it, but still not enough. Then we have this sort of meaning to rebuild the government after everything the cohort did, and after Alec is elected consul, which I was super excited about. I was like, yay, Alec deserves it. He's going to be such a good consul. He's perfect for it. And then the cohort threatens mass suicide and banishes everybody else from Alicante, and everyone has to leave who's not part of the cohort, and Idris is just completely sealed up from this point on. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I have no idea where that's going to go. Obviously, we have to take Idris back at some point, but I don't know how we're going to do that, or when we're going to do that, or what the other, because there's so many plot lines being drawn up for the Wicked Powers. There's this Alicante plotline, there's the Ash plotline, there's this Dark Jace plotline, which might be in Ghost of the Shadow Market, I'm not sure. There's this Kit and Ty relationship, there's Livy's ghost, there's all sorts of things that are being set up for the Wicked Powers, and I'm just so curious where the overall arc of the series is going to go. Ty and Kit, when Ty brought Livy back and Kit said he loved him and Ty didn't respond and didn't, I felt so bad for Kit, and my heart broke for him, but at the same time I understood what Ty meant when he was saying that there was nothing for him without Livy, because that's his sister, that's the person who's been with him since before he was born. I understand. It doesn't mean that he doesn't still love his family, or that he doesn't love Kit or appreciate Kit. It doesn't mean that Kit is nothing to him. I don't think he meant it the way that Kit took it, but I think that Kit went about the whole thing the wrong way by, like, aiding him the entire time and not telling him no, and just sort of enabling him to do this thing that he knew he was going to regret doing, and trying to stop him at the last minute, I just think didn't work, and I felt so, my heart broke for them, and I hope that they better reconcile in the Wicked Powers. I really hope they do. I'm sure they will, but we'll see where that storyline goes. Now Kit is living with Jem and Tessa and their baby, who they're going to have, and I'm so excited to see that. I'm so excited to see Jem and Tessa more in the Wicked Powers, because I love them both so much. Also, can we talk briefly about the number of times that Julian and Emma have sex in this book? Because comparatively to Jason, Clary, and Will and Tessa, who each got one time each in the final book of the series, Julian and Emma get to have sex like twice a book, and I just find that really funny. It's definitely getting steamier as the books go on, and I'm really loving it. But Magnus and Alec's wedding was so beautiful. I was so happy for them. They deserved it so much. And I was so happy that they finally got to do it in Shadowhunter Gold and Warlock Blue, like the way they always dreamed of it. And they got to do it on the inside of the waves, the way Magnus always wanted to. And it was too much. And seeing everyone so happy and together, and even though Livy wasn't there, that broke my heart. But she was still there with Ty and Kit, because they could see her, and yeah, the ending was just really beautiful, and I was just really, really happy. And then we get to the epilogue. And the epilogue, I'm like reading through, I'm like, oh, the Unseelie card. I'm like, why is Jace here? That's weird. And then it's revealed to be Dark Jace, and I'm like, oh, how did that happen? How did he get from Thule? What happened? What is he doing here? And then it's revealed that he brought Ash, and I'm like, oh my god, so now Ash is in our world. And then he says at the end, I want you to bring me Clary Fairchild, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. What is going on? I'm so scared about. I think this plotline gets resolved in Ghost of the Shadow Market, or at least is addressed in one of the stories in Ghost of the Shadow Market, which I'm really excited for because Dark Jace is so interesting and compelling to me as a character. I want to learn more about him. I'm so looking forward to see him and Clary and real Jace interact. It's going to be so interesting. So yeah, my heart was pounding after reading that epilogue. I could not. If you saw my Twitter, I was like, holy shit, that is crazy, and I'm so excited. Cassie really knows how to leave you hanging on a cliffhanger, and I was like, ah! So anyway, those are all my thoughts on Queen of Air and Darkness. I really loved this book. It was such an interesting read. I had such a good time reading it. I really liked the way it wrapped up for, our main characters, and I'm super excited for what it's setting up with some of our other characters in the future. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of Queen and Air and Darkness down in the comments below, please. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you felt about it. Next up, I'm reading The Red Scrolls of Magic, and then after that, Ghost of the Shadow Market, and after that, finally, Chain of Gold. So then I'll be all caught up in time for the Lost Book of the White, when that finally comes out in September. So I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.